order. Let me get my sheet out so I can sheet. Okay.
I think it's in my purse.
Okay, here we go. Calling it to order, the roll call, Mr. Bowles,
Hello.
Ms. King,
Here.
Ms. McNeil,
Here.
Ms. Nunez,
Here.
and I'm here. Okay. Can we get somebody to,
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I have an addition to the closed session item, agenda
okay,
3D, it's a 3D, it's approval of classified sick leave request.
approval of what?
It's an approval of classified use of sick leave.
Oh,
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
I second.
excellent. And now we're going
Yeah,
to,
can we have a discussion?
Oh.
I just, I need to know that I can make changes to the consent agenda at that time instead of right now.
I'm sure we can pull something if necessary.
Yeah, I'd like
Oh.
about 3 things to be discussed. Thank you.
we are now going into closed session. Thank
We
you.
need to vote on the agenda.
I'm sorry, my brain is not here.
Join us.
Is anybody gonna make a motion?
I made the motion.
Okay, all in favor? We have
Aye.
some. Okay, thank you. Okay, we are now reconvening to open session. Diane, would you lead us on the pledge of allegiance?
We stand.
Join us. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Okay, and now, Mr. Beebe, can we get a report out of closed session?
Yeah, all 3 items plus the amended or added agenda item on 3D were discussed, motioned and approved by the board in closed session.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
Okay. And I'm not anticipating minutes. Consent agenda items.
I think we're.
We have CSEA comments first. Sorry about that. Anybody here from CSEA? Okay. What about WTA?
Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon, evening, everybody. My name is Brian Bull. You guys know everybody here. I'd like to announce that I'm the new president of WTA, and a few small items I'd like to plant the seed with you this morning for the following years. One of my big pushes as president is trying to help the district articulate all of our different sites from kindergarten all the way through 12th grade, both with students and with teachers. And so we've done some small things this year. Woodworking has gone to the elementary school, and we'd like to see more of that with the arts, with writing, and one of my big exciting things is that we may be starting a reading program that brings high school students to the elementary at Brookside, so I'm excited about that. We have a really diverse group of teachers in our unit, and I hope to get more camaraderie across the district so that everybody knows each other and we can help improve our test scores and our ADA, all the things that make a school is very important to me. I've been in education since 2000. Both my parents were teachers, so I'm born and raised in education. The last thing I'd like to speak to tonight is that we ratified our TA. We had a fairly long negotiating session, and I'd like to thank all the members, especially Mark Beebe. But it was a really nice, not in negotiations, no one ever gets what they want, and that was the case yet again. But that's part of the process, and I felt like everybody in that room was professional throughout. I'd really like to thank Mr. Beebe. I felt like everybody on my side of the table felt heard when we spoke, and I want to appreciate you and your team for that. So, couple things. things that stood out, I have questions about the budget. There's one new item on there that's a $400,000 item. It says new, it's different from, it wasn't on the budget last year. It says new next to it, so I don't know what that is, I don't know what that is. And then maybe a more in-depth explanation about how the federal monies have decreased. We have a huge drop from this year to next in the budget. Some of that is grants, I'm assuming, but I'd like to have a better understanding of what that drop looks like. And then it continues to drop for 3 years through, so I'd like to see or hear about what's going on there with our budget. I also do like the fact that in the year 2 and 3, we are flatlining as far as our percentage and being above 3%, that it doesn't continue to drop precipitously after year 2. So that's exciting news for our district as a whole. So thank you for letting me have the time tonight. You'll be seeing a lot more of me at these meetings, and likely a lot more of me outside these meetings. So thank you, and have a good rest of the meeting.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Have a good summer, Brian.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brian.
Mr. Bowles, I would definitely encourage you to make some time with Melissa to get some of your questions answered for the budget.
Absolutely, thank you.
Superintendent comments.
I want to echo Mr. Bowles. I thought that this year's negotiations were productive, and they were interest-based, and I think that it's always productive when you walk out of the room and you're 75% happy, because that means the other group is probably the same way. You never get what you want, and but it was very productive, and the sessions that we had were educational, and they were academic, and they were geared towards embracing student achievement, as well as allowing staff on, and not even just WTA, but I mean, staff as a whole to feel like they're part of the process. And that's important in the collaboration and consensus building. It's important to me, and how I like to lead, and how I like to kind of frame things and work alongside people rather than telling them what to do. Well, that's fun too. So, to that. We had a rather gentle end to the school year, especially the last week. I wouldn't say that the previous weeks were very gentle, but the last week is always a lot of fun. Graduation promotions, they're fun, they're successful, they're a little sad because we have students leaving, but the students are going on. They were productive, and although I wasn't able to be at the high school one, I was able to, from 5 to 6, watch ours, and then from 6 to 8, watch my godsons. And so that was a one for me, a great 3 hours of watching both of Mike Joy's graduation. So, end of the year always has a bit of a joy and a sadness to it. We say goodbye to seniors, but we also say hello to our TK students, and we also say hello. Our 3rd graders move to Blosser, and our 2nd graders move to Blosser. Excuse me, our 2nd graders move to Blosser, and our 3rd graders move. Our 5th graders move to Bechtel, and our 8th graders move to high school. It's always exciting to see newness and challenges that the students face, and watch them embrace that and overcome them. And that's exciting to an educator like myself. I think we've had a productive year. And overall, our system, I believe, is moving in the right direction. I looked at some of my notes from last year, and I'm kind of saying the same thing, and so I still feel that way. I feel like we're moving in a positive direction. We still have a lot of work to do. We have a significant amount of people that are producing a significant amount of effort. I don't know why I'm using the word significant so much, but I guess it's kind of on my mind. And I applaud that. This business has changed over the years. Mr. Bowles just mentioned 2000. I've been at this since the late 80s, and it's evolved, and it's still evolving. And I look forward to watching the evolution in education and how we go about our craft. I look forward to another year, working with staff, working with the board, working with our students, working with our community. And it's a wonderful job. It's a great community. I like being here, except for the cold. It's all I don't like, but that's okay. I can get bigger coats. As always, thank you to the board, and always, most importantly, thank you to my staff and our students for the work that they do all the time. A couple housekeeping items. We're off to a really really nice start in summer school. We have, last I heard, I think we have 40 at the high school. From 9-12, we have 65 in K-8, and then we have, excuse me, 90, and 60 in West Alonsa, and then we have 90 in the K-8. So, and then next week we start our ESY program with our special ed students. So we're moving around a little bit.
And you have kids up there.
And then we have 50 kids and dual enrollment and New Center College. So we're we got a little bit of a three-ring kind of thing going on. So it's fun. It's cool for us. Kind of do a lot of stuff. So other than that, I am happy I'm here.
Thank you.
Christina, would you turn your mic on, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Jeannie?
So these are my board comments. I want to, again, appreciate Blosser Lane, which has given me a real nice place to be this year. And they've, I feel like I am part of the community, and that it gives me a real chance to observe a school close up, and which then expands to other schools, my understanding of how hard everybody works and what the job requires, and what the challenges are, and I really appreciate Blosser Lane a lot. So this past month at Blosser Lane, I met with Abby, who's one of the counselors, and she sat with me for about an hour and talked to me about restorative justice, because I'm very interested in how restorative justice is working in the district, and how consequences take place, and in what way that kids that are victimized get a sense that they have been heard and that the issue's taken care of. Abby spent a nice time with me. And then I also volunteered to work at the book fair with Rachel Cash, the librarian. She is such a gem. She's just an absolutely awesome librarian. If anybody is going to get a kid to love reading, it's Rachel. So, and then I got to attend the Wax Museum in Mrs. Boone's class, which is a wonderful activity where kids pick an historical figure and do a report on that historical figure, and then dress up. And then parents and students from other classes come and walk through and hear each student's report. And my granddaughter was Pocahontas, and there was Houdini in her class, and there was Einstein, and anyway, it's a really cool activity. And then her class also did a play performance, Gold Dust or Bust, which is another way for kids to experience something about history, this one particularly to California. And then I attended the the fourth grade awards ceremony at Blosser, which gave me a really wonderful insight as to how well at least the fourth grade behaves in a group event like that, and how well the staff manages students' behavior. So I was impressed. And then my favorite end of the year activity is the senior walk, which I did at Blosser, and watch the seniors walk through. They circumnavigate through this school, they go to Brookside first and do a senior walk, and then they do Blosser, and then they do Bechtel, and it's always a very impressive event. And then I attended the two graduations, Bechtel Grove and Middle School and Willits High School, and I'm always really impressed with the kids that graduate from Willits High. And I wanted to read something that I sent to Mark today, because it's been on my mind a lot. Modern childhood has been a tragedy in 2 acts. Act 1, we took away the play-based childhood, 1990 to 2010. And in
Act Two, we gave kids the phone-based childhood, 2010 to now. And teenage mental health has plunged in the middle of all this. And I hope that staff and parents and members of the community can help turn this around child by child. Look kids in the eye, teach them to say please and thank you, teach them to shake a hand, give them the gift of your attention, so they learn how an adult, what a gift it is that somebody's attended to them. And then on a positive note, this was a Facebook post posted by a High Unified Ag teacher who's attending the California High School Rodeo Association State Finals currently taking place in Bishop, California. And she said on her Facebook post, Willits community, you should be very proud of your cowboys. Kevin Roundtree, Clayton Cooley, and Tanner Dudley are killing it down here at California State Finals. Impressive young men. And good job, Kevin, Clayton, and Tanner. So that's it.
Thank you, Jean. Alex?
End of year, awards ceremonies, graduation, all these things. They are exciting in so many ways, so enjoyable to be a small part of all that. It's just kind of a culmination of a lot of work on everyone's part, obviously far more on the part of the teachers and staff than what we do up here. It's just amazing to see it kind of culminate and see the results of all that work as these kids move on from high school out into the real world. As always, I remain heavily focused on a number of things, chief among them being literacy in our youngest and the security among our campuses. That hasn't changed and still continues. I'm excited about Mr. Sandoval's programs that he's doing with his mile walk and his the library, lunch at the library day, for example, to again try to emphasize some of those things. I've thrown some financial incentive that direction, and I challenge anyone here to do the same if you can, because they're providing some prizes for some of these kids to incentivize both their academic as well as their athletic endeavors. So we're trying to make school fun for as many of these kids as we can, and I'm happy to participate. So that's about all I've got.
Thanks, Alex. Diana?
I like what you're doing over in the summer school right there. Let's see, graduations. I really enjoyed the graduation with adult ed, May 31st. 21 grads were going, and that was with John Horton and Mrs. Chavez. And it was really nice. Everything was there. The families were all there as well. There was promotions with Bechtel Grove. 8th graders now are at the Willits High School as freshmen. Yes, and thanks Mr. Kenny and also Miss Lorenzo Sandoval as well. Best wishes for Willits High School graduates too as well, and all of you that were there. It was a good graduation and it was fun to see those kids go by. I want to thank our maintenance crew and Rick setting up the bleachers, the platform, and the chairs for that. And I was over at Bechtel Grove, and the locker room is being fixed up, and a whole bunch of new lockers are coming in for that as well. So school's going on well, even though it's summer. All right.
Thank
you, Paula.
Okay, well, so, all this stuff I was going to say, you said. And, the only things I have left is I missed one of the deals that you went to. I missed it. The staff appreciation deal was really nice, and so that was a good thing, thank you. And, congrats, Brian, I'm pleased to see that you are the president, and it's nice to see other people here. I also heard, Kenneth, that you were, I don't know if you were the designer or you just helped Rick set up the graduation thing so it looked the way it looked. And I personally thought that was nifty. I figured that people on the other side will tell you the opposite. We could maybe take turns every year or something, I don't know, but it was a good deal, so that was nice. I don't know. Anyway, we had about $1.5 million from grants. I think that's a real big deal, and I was pleased, well, not pleased to know that it's why there's a drop in the budget, but I'm pleased to know it's a different reason than it could have been, and so that's good. And I also have some questions that I'll meet with you, Melissa, but I can't believe that everyone knows the answers, and it would just seem to me that the 4 or 5 big ones, I'm gonna ask you during our board meeting. And there was also an issue about that I've heard a lot about. I don't know what the story is, but it has to do with now that things I just learned may become kind of a little better articulated or communicated during the school year, maybe site to site as well as with negotiations. They really aren't the biggest deal that the union does, but it certainly is the pathway, or according to my way of thinking, to make everything stay open and keep those communications good. I'm real glad that those are gonna happen kind of all year long. It takes some of the pressure off. It's more hours, I'm certain, but I'm really happy to hear that. And because of that, I'm hoping that maybe some of the board can be a little more closely involved with how that works out. I really think that it's an important thing, especially from my way of thinking, to have a little more personal view of what happens instead of secondhand information. Okay. And I have some questions about the LCAP. I'll bring those up during that fun time. And then I'm hoping that a couple of the things that I heard about happening at some of the sites and that had to do with graduations don't ever happen again. I understand they were just misunderstandings. I don't mean I understand. I was told that they were just misunderstandings. I can't understand how that could possibly be. But however, I do have a lot of faith in things turning themselves around and people finding a path that is much better for everyone, making certain no one's feelings get thrown under a bus, and that things are fixed when they can be, instead of being allowed to slide because we're in a hurry. Okay. And that's about all I have to say for right now.
Thanks, Paula. Okay, so I'm gonna be working with Ms. Laskovics on some of the training for LGBT information for people. We're working also on the ethnic studies program because that's been required. And there's different views of it, and part of the way the state set it out is they're fairly political. And my master's is in ethnomusicology, and the way I learned about ethnic studies was much more around culture and the enrichment that it brings everybody, and its languages, and its food, and its customs. So it's going to be interesting to see how to integrate everything, because one of the things that Ms. Laskovics has been working on is how to start with the lower grades, which is a perfect time to start because there's all different kinds of songs and games that the kids can learn to play, and it's fun. So that's one thing I've been working on. I was absolutely amazed at the junior high school level, watching these kids, the girls, walking or trying to walk in these heels that are this high, and I'm looking at them going, oh, there's no way. somebody that they had a thing that if one person fell, they were gonna all fall down, but it didn't happen. So this was a good thing. It was wonderful to see them. My favorite still is with the adult school, with the older learners. There's one gentleman that's there, and I know him distantly, I don't know him well, but my son knows him and knows his son because they both have the same different abilities. They both have Down syndrome and are somewhat on the autism spectrum. And I know because my son and grandson live with me now, my grandson every other week, how full-time a job that is. I mean, there's not a minute that you have that you can look away, that you cannot. They did that one time with Aiden at the house in Kaya, where his wife asked him something, he came over, and then when he went out to get the groceries from the car, Aiden was gone. He took himself on a walkabout in the community. Luckily, the cop that got called to pick him up had a son that was differently able and recognized it immediately. So, I mean, and the reason I'm telling you this is because that's what this meant. He has two children that are just differently able, and he's probably in his 40s or 50s. And he has managed to work and support his family, and he graduated from high school and got his diploma. And that was the icing on the cake. That really was. Other than that, I'm looking forward to July of not having any board meetings. And getting ready for the new year and all the changes. And Brian, thank you for what you were telling us about the changes you're looking to make and having things start when kids are younger, because that's awesome. So, thank you. Okay, on here we have a 5-minute break. Does anybody need a break at this point?
Yes.
Okay, in that case, we have somebody that does, so we will have a 5-minute break, then come back and try to get through this as quickly as we can. Thank you. Welcome back. We now start with public comment. Is there anybody that would like to speak? Robin?
Hi. My name is Robin Goldner, and I've been a psychotherapist in Willits since 1990. And first of all, I want to thank you for fostering the needs of the children of Willits. Yeah, I'm impressed with, every time I come to a board meeting, I'm impressed about the caring and concern, and obviously, I don't need to tell you that, but I want to thank you. Because I'm also concerned with what's happening to children on a societal level. Jean, you said exactly what I'm here to inquire about. Whoever, did you get that about the play-based childhood turning
About the
into?
2X, childhood in 2X.
Yeah.
I saw it in an article. If I think about it long enough, I'll think about
Well,
it.
anyway, I heard the guy, it's from a book by John Haidt.
Yes, it was from I get his emails, so that was where I got it.
Right, and he just wrote The Anxious Generation, how the rewiring of childhood is causing an epidemic of mental illness. So, basically, I will cut to the chase, and one of his recommendations, he says that there ought to be, especially high school, children, cell phones should not be allowed for that period of time of the school day. And it can't be a personal decision, it has to be a collective decision, because he says if one person texts, everybody's got to text, you know? It's a somewhat communal event in an odd kind of way. Anyway, yes.
Let me break a train of thought, but popped into my head. We're aware of the issues here
Yeah.
in America with respect to cell
says that it's kind of the Western countries where the mental illness is going up. He has a lot of statistics from the UK, but it's all of kind of Northern Europe type phenomenon where the mental illness is going up and the test scores are going down. Good question. Anyway, well, I'm here to gather information. I wanted to know what the district's policy is for cell phones in the classroom, and I imagine also that there's policy and then there's implementation. That's probably a heck of a lot harder. So, and I'm willing to do anything that I can to help this problem. So,
It's an interesting dilemma, and I'm sure that lots of people can chime in a lot of different ways. We have talked about ad nauseum how to limit the use of cell phones during the academic periods at every level. But a number of things continue to get in the way.
Excuse me, I think we should refer this to Mr. Beebe,
Okay?
and he can investigate that and look at it and then come back and report to us, because I agree with you, it's an important thing to look at.
I'd be glad to have a dialogue with you outside the meeting.
okay, that sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay, so,
Make an appointment, come on in, doors open.
great. So you're gonna be around,
Yeah,
over the summer?
they take it.
Fantastic. Okay,
Come after
so,
8.
As long as we keep paying him, he'll stay.
Yeah.
all right, well, that's true for a lot of us.
Give us your contact information, we'll reach out to you, so.
Okay, you can call me or I'll call you.
No,
Okay.
You can get, take your, do you have any
Do
phone?
you have a business card?
You know I never carry them.
Okay,
But-
you can track down your info.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all of you.
Thanks, Martha. Okay, consent agenda.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, anybody second that?
I second.
Okay, are there any board members that have comments or questions?
I do, thank you. I want a few of them taken off so they can be discussed. One of them is number 4, and one of them is number, it's either, oh no, that's after, good. Anyway, it's number 4, and,
Can we just discuss them and see if we can?
that would suit me just as well. Oh, okay, so if you wanna, I don't know, before we used to do all the others and then bring whichever back, and we
Well,
did
we have
those, that,
2 ways to do it. We can pull them and vote on them individually, or we can discuss them, and if we satisfy your issues, then we can vote on them.
oh, good, either way suits me real well.
What is your question?
Oh, I want, what were my questions for number 4?
Yes.
Oh, I have a number, okay, let me bring them up. Trusting I can read this. I have it in my budget, sorry.
Great, thank you.
The biggest ones, actually, they're sort of twofold. We could do the easy one first, which is the one of the Christy White, you know, her little letter telling, actually, what I noticed was it cost about $18,000 and I learned absolutely zero from it. All it says is, the biggest deal that I could figure out that it said, was that they were only allowed to look at certain things to see if money was being spent properly. And of the certain things that they looked at, yes, money was spent properly. But instead of stopping there, he, I don't know, whomever, then said, however, if we had looked at more things, we may have a different report, which meant they would send one, because the only thing they sent here was nothing of any consequence. And so that was a little odd. I wondered if that was standard. I haven't read those very often before. Actually, I never paid much attention to the oversight committee, but I did this time because I don't know what miscellaneous funds can be for $50,000 or 43 something. And it had a lot of things where it just didn't, it didn't look really good, and I some explanations. And if you have some overalls, that's good, I'll take those. But I didn't get them, so if it's up to however you want to explain this to me.
Well, the miscellaneous funds are for 2 pumps that we had to repair at the high school.
Okay, so that's miscellaneous is not the kind of typical small items. It could just be things you didn't count on.
Usually, yeah. And usually we didn't, they came up out of nowhere.
Okay, and because there was money in a little miscellaneous fund.
There's
it
not,
wasn't-
there's not a breakout fund for bonds. Okay, it's one pot of money, and then you spend it down based upon the language of the bond.
Okay, and I understood that part, I thought, and so then this kind of like a budget or a list of expenditures or whatever it's called, where it lists everything that they did. Is allowed, and that's what the Christy White look at, I mean, that's what her thing was to do, her report was to report on.
I can answer about Christy White. Christy White's our auditing firm, and the
Yeah.
$18,000 is for the entire district audit as well as the bond audit. And I believe the entire audit as well as the bond audit were sent out as attachments in a previous meeting.
But we didn't use bond funds to pay Christy White.
No, we did not. There are fees associated with the bond that come out of the bond.
But that's not considered one of them? I mean, here it has on this sheet, okay, that there was a refund to the city of Willits for the removal of the, read it, it's an oil tank.
It was something we paid for that the city of Willits had an agreement with us, and
Yeah,
they
they paid
reimbursed us
half
for
that.
part of the cost.
Okay, or nearly half. Okay, and so that, the things on the top of this, where it's called total revenue, kind of oddly came up to about $50,000. Is that where you find a miscellaneous fund? Because if it's not a budget and it's just a list of whatever money's spent on,
So
I don't know.
the budget is for a 3-year run of the bond, okay? So you have $4 million, $5 million, $3 million, okay? So the budget comes from the language of the bond. And the language of the bond that was written a while back was safety, security, replacing
Yeah.
facilities, replacing potential equipment, you can even use it for tech, fencing, security. So there's no budget for it, okay? There was a plan put together by a previous superintendent that we're somewhat following, but that wasn't actually in the original bond language. I still have never figured out where that came from. But it's actually not a bad list. And it was called phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. There is no, they kind of mirrors the phases of the bond, I suppose that's why they came up with it. It was not very front loaded in phase 1. Some of they couldn't do, like the Brookside West Wing project. They found that they couldn't do that for X number of dollars, it was gonna come in at $5 million, you know? So, as these items come up, as we have the ability to do them, in terms of our facilities, that's what we're targeting.
Okay, so then the list that says in the past year and ongoing, these are our accomplishments, basically. After that, they want to call phase 2 and 3 and 4 projects. Those are like the list that you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a pretty good list, but that doesn't necessarily mean we're slave to them. We're slave to the original language of the bond, which is frankly vaguely specific. It's a bit
Yeah.
broad.
Okay, and when we're paying to have somebody send out the bond monies or whatever, I forget what they call it, but it costs a number of thousands of, well, here it
Yes,
is, this
there's a-
way. Okay,
What do they
that,
call it? What do they call that agency?
it's called the bond,
The cost of issuance.
cost
We pay
issuance.
Financial advisors,
Yeah, we have advisors
And
for the
the-
bond. We have to
right.
have that.
there are tax forms that we pay for to be filed because it has to be done by a third party. It's all the costs associated with the bonds since they're very public funds.
Okay, so then those are the bills, but they don't come out of the bond, they're coming out of the general fund.
Those do come out of the bond. That's why this is not a budget. This is our
And
publication
expenses?
of what we have spent on funds on. So the miscellaneous is needed. Those are smaller purchases that fall under the allowable bond expenditures, but don't necessarily fall under one of these categories already listed on here.
Okay,
So So it's not a budget or things that we're planning on spending.
Oh, okay, well, that was the biggest deal, because it seemed like it was a budget, and I couldn't figure out how it matched to anything. And just out of curiosity, what's a $30,500 Bobcat?
That was in 2021, I cannot answer that.
Oh. That interested me a lot, too.
Like
Just
a
seeing-
skid steer.
Is it a way?
It's probably a skid steer.
It's a machine,
It's a machine.
yes.
What does it do?
It has a.
It moves dirt.
And it also has.
Oh,
It moves dirt, picks up things,
Like a
moves it
tractor.
around,
Yeah.
basically a tractor.
oh. Okay, well, that would make sense. I couldn't figure stuffing an animal for that kind of thing. Well, I'm opposed to stuffing animals in the first place sometimes, not always. And I didn't know that.
It has a very distinct benefit, that you don't have to rent one now.
Oh, yay, and it's so useful to us that really saves us money.
Oh, I'm
That's
sure,
cool.
you know, like reading fields, pick up heavy, pieces of cement.
We do that a lot, sister.
In the high school, I'm sure they do.
Ground
It's
maintenance.
It is very useful. We're
Yeah.
also using it to move logs, probably for a sawmill.
Cause it's against the law to make kids do that anymore.
Yes, I don't know why.
It shouldn't be.
It should, no, I agree with you, Alex. It
What
shouldn't
other
be.
questions did you have?
Okay, well, so those were the biggest ones that had to do with that, and the rest, if you don't care, because they're,
So there's another part that might be helpful that you understood clearly, that was, you see, there are funds that we have to spend in order to get the bond money. And there's this number of those things, which you guys, of course, could categorize them, but because we scheduled this thing to be, we could have done one bond, got all the money up front, and paid a lot less in fees, or we can schedule the bond out like we have in 4 or 5 or even 6 different installments. We're gonna pay more in fees. So each time we do one of these, each time we sell bonds, we're gonna have those same fees again.
and that I understood, and we could extend when we even asked for those
Correct.
fees, depending upon how the economy was running or whatever at the
Exactly.
time. Okay, well, yeah, that part I thought I understood,
But in general, all of the bond funds that we currently are receiving on this particular bond have to be spent on repairing or replacing what we already have. We don't
Right.
get to go build a new building.
And I understand all that too, and that's good. I did have a concern about how it seems to cost 59 or 60 or whatever grand every time we go to whomever we go to and say, okay, it's almost like printing up money, we need this much stuff. And, that gets to be costly. I mean, 180 grand or however much that we spend doing this 3 times is a lot of money. And I just wondered if in what I thought was a budget, I didn't see anywhere where it was gonna be replaced in the general fund, but I see that it
It's
is.
got nothing to do with the general fund.
Totally
Nothing.
separate.
So one of the things on that,
What did you say?
no,
I'm sorry.
the bond has nothing to do with general fund, it's illegal.
And I thought so. So then if you're paying out of not the bond, the 60 grand for having the, whatever they call it, how they
It is
sell
coming
them
out
out?
of the bond. It is coming out of the bond. Every fee associated with the bond and the drawdown of the bond funds comes out of the bond
Out of the
funds.
bond.
There are,
And it's kept in a separate account, so we're fund 01, general fund, bond is fund 21,
Oh,
so it doesn't touch.
oh, okay. So you can pull some of the bond money to the side for other expenses. And they wouldn't be called miscellaneous 2 years or whatever it is.
I would never put bond funds aside for something else that's not
Yeah.
directly associated with the language of the bond. And the reason, one of the confusion pieces is that I'm getting information from the Citizens Oversight Committee from the beginning of the expenditures.
Okay.
So there are gonna be 4 chunks,
Right, I noticed there were 2 now.
right? We're into the second chunk, and we
Yeah.
just started, in January. Because we got funding, because I wasn't going to, the language says 2024, I wasn't gonna touch 2024, because I've heard about the history of the bond in this community, and I'm gonna stay very, very true and transparent to what we're, and not even the spirit of the language, we're gonna go with the language, okay? And so we're very judicious about, well, how we're gonna kind of go about this. This is not, and again, somebody developed that list, that phase 2, 3, 4, and it's a good list, but some of the things we've already fixed, 2 other meetings,
Yeah,
so.
well, that's good.
So we move on, and, I mean, this is repair, I mean, you got a gentleman in the room, I mean, sooner or later, we're gonna have to attack his roof. And that is gonna be no small
Wouldn't that be
expense.
nice?
And even though we already did some roofs, we didn't do them all.
Yeah.
We also have 30, 40, 50-year-old HVACs that are timing out, that are dinosaurs, that we've got to pull and replace, and so we keep, you know, I have no idea, I'm fairly certain that we're gonna have other pumps underground that are gonna go out, because they're, I think they're putting a T-Rex or something in the earth. So,
The only other thing you might want to pay attention to in the future, and that is the bond money. Let's assume for the sake of argument that we've spent all the bond money that we have out of this draw.
Mhm.
Before we make the next draw, we have another significant issue with another facility that we have to spend general fund money on. We can pay our general fund back out of the bond funds to do that after the fact.
Okay. Oh, okay, that is different than I understood it. And the oversight committee approves before or after everything is done?
the oversight committee is, it's an interesting group. Number one, it's, well, you gotta have very specific people. You have to have somebody in the banking industry, you have to have a CPA, you have to have, somebody in the maintenance, construction field.
Mhm.
You should have a lawyer.
I didn't remember seeing one. I don't know what I
Um,
said. Okay.
And then they're only for 3 years. And then you have to get a new group. Because you never want a bond committee to be longer, it's usually kind of head code stuff,
Mhm.
fiduciary stuff. So this is a brand new group. They meet usually once, maybe twice a year. We didn't have a lot of bond expenditures in the, over the course of this year. We needed to spend some money before December 31st, because otherwise we'd lose it. We didn't want to lose it, so we spent it, we got it done. In fact, the HVAC at Wasser Lane was kind of the last piece of that money. And then we've got some kind of plans for this summer to do some stuff. We have to take a look at our roofs. Kind of go from there. So this is that new committee.
Okay, so that these 7 or whatever, yeah, these are new, they're not, they just started this year?
This year. And we'll probably have, we usually have 2 meetings a year. They're not, they can be public meetings, but they're not voting anything. I'm delivering information about what we've done. It's the word oversight. You have to have an oversight community that's not attached to the school to make sure the taxpayer funds are being spent in the way that it's supposed to be spent.
Okay, meaning if they turn out a report that is negative to what they think,
They would tell me in the meeting. I mean, I deliver the report, I deliver the
Yeah.
audit, I deliver all the reports, and then we have a discussion, and they say, okay. Or they say, they have questions,
okay.
like just like this.
Okay. All right, thank you, thank you.
How are the people chosen to be on
You
the
reach
list?
out,
You should see the
you
list.
reach out to people.
You reach out to people?
It's not an election.
No, I know, for not being involved in the schools, they are, I mean, or they were, or the whatever, there's a variety of ways to look at that.
Do you have any other
Well-
questions on any of the other things that were?
No, I only was worried about number 4.
Okay, so can we go ahead and?
Oh, and vote on it?
Mhm.
Oh,
Do you
yeah,
wanna get
thank
place
you.
for that?
No, I'm
Be a
good.
vote on the consent agenda.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You have a first and a second, all right?
oh, okay.
So in that case, all in favor?
Aye.
Passing it? Aye.
Aye.
Good. Thank you. And then we have items for the next regular board meeting agenda.
I think we have to open. public
Oh, I'm
hearing.
sorry. What?
These
Public
guys.
hearings.
Yes, I forgot about that. Sorry. So now there's public hearing for the local control accountability plan. do we have discussion about this, or just, this is the
No,
announcement?
you just open the public hearing, give the public an opportunity to comment, and in the absence of any comments, then you can close that public hearing and go on to the next.
Okay,
So I have a question that doesn't, it's just procedural, okay? So during a public hearing, we are not going to discuss it. Basically, it's not for us. We wait until next week, right? And then when it goes before a vote or after a vote, we throw in our concerns or whatever's.
Good.
Yeah, we can discuss it tonight, but
We
there's
can
no
also.
issue, nothing's stopping
Oh,
us.
right.
We can't take any action on it.
Right. Oh, okay,
and
okay.
we read them out loud to tell people what it's for.
LCAP's almost 300 pages long, we'd be here a while.
No, so,
Yeah.
okay, my question is, do I just say we're having this for that, and that's it?
Yeah, all you have to do is open the public hearing for the
Okay.
2023-24 LCAP.
Does anybody have anything that they want to say?
I'll just do a little tidbit on it. My only 2 cents on LCAP is that we, as a governing board and as a district, need to make a more effective effort on getting people to those meetings. And it's not anybody's fault, but it is really hard to get people to them. And our community needs to be more involved in that process to deliver what you're about next week to vote on. Make sure that all the people have their piece and their say in it. It tends to be a little bit rushed from my perspective and lens before it comes to you. That's it.
Is it advertised in the local paper?
No, we reached out, we had 2 meetings, one in March and one in April.
On the website, and Michelle sends it out as an all call, so pick up those everybody.
Is an all call on the telephone or on the thing?
It's either the
Both.
text or.
Both.
Both, depending on when they sign up to get the messages.
Okay.
I put it on our dojo, and I also put it on my Friday night notes for weeks.
Okay.
We had a lot more people this year than last year.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
That's
Last-
good, that's good.
Last year we had 3.
Well,
Yeah, I heard that.
okay, can we move on then to the next one?
I just want to point out that this first one is for the 23-24 school year, and then D is for the 24-25.
Thank you, Jeannie. So the next one is the local control accountability plan for 24-25.
So hold on, you need to close the public hearing for the first one.
The public hearing for 23-24 local control accountability plan is closed. Opening the hearing then for the 24-25 local control accountability plan. Does anybody have any comments? Okay. What?
I was curious about why it drops about from the estimated actuals and the,
And that's budget.
But
well, I'm on the wrong page. Sorry, hold on. Yeah, it's closed, isn't it?
So we started the first LCAP, there's a second public hearing for the
Yeah.
coming year.
Right,
The last one was an update, we haven't discussed the 24-25 LCAP yet, that's what's open.
okay, yeah, no, that's the one I think I just, sorry. But it was budget overview.
A budget overview for parents is the top part of the LCAP.
Right, the ones that have that pie graph.
Yes.
Okay.
Are you okay then?
I had a concern over, it says total budgeted general fund expenditures are nearly $30 million. And then, the next thing you know, they've dropped the following, they dropped from this year that we just finished, okay, that was much less than the one coming up. And then the one that's projected, it's a less again. I just wondered what controls that?
Are you looking at the page, the chart with the green and the blue column? Okay, so the total budgeted general fund expenditures is that total. We only bill
I'm sorry, excuse me, did you close the public hearing for the 24-25 LCAP?
We're
No,
in
no.
public hearing we're doing
Thank
budget
you.
overview for parents, which is in the LCAP. She said me. Okay. So, Paula, we only, in this, so yes, we do compare to the total budgeted expenditures in our budget. LCAP only covers our supplemental and concentration funds, which is a much smaller amount. So that's a piece of our LCFF dollars. The rest are the federal, state, local funds. We're really only using the LCAP to account for the supplemental concentration funds. So that's why it's that way. It's not a decrease. That's just how much of our budgeted expenditures are what's in the LCAP.
Okay. Oh, okay. And is there, how would you turn the things that are in this LCFF, like a wish list, into a prioritized list? Is that what would have to come from the committee when you're making it up? Or is that just,
Typically, things in an LCAP are almost all hit, in one fashion or the other.
oh, okay, and they kind of carry the same weight?
I don't know, the same way, I mean, based upon need, I mean, our district and our goals.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, our first goal is literacy. So that's gonna be the priority. I mean, if you look at the goals, if you look at from 1, 2, 3, all the way, the goals all the same, and they're all interconnected.
Mm-hmm.
But in attention to literacy, since I've been here, is the #1 goal of this year. So that's where the pot of money's gonna go. And then you got engagement, which can flow into access to literacy, language acquisition, technology integration, which connects to literacy. So they're all kind of interconnected.
Well, see, that's sort of what I was thinking, but it seemed like some little sides may or may not need more emphasis to get them towards literacy with the whole group going forward. And I didn't see how that was made a priority. I didn't see any priorities or prioritizing for any of the things that people would need, you know, and I didn't know how to make it work.
So you want me
Like
to
if
go
I-
back in and put 1 through whatever, or this is the most important and?
No,
Isn't that-
because you
That's
have
not how
to
it
get
gets
some,
written, by the way.
yeah, that's just it. And I used to be on committees to do this, but it was kind of like, well, this is important, well, this is important, and each little group had their section of what was the most important, and then they all went up there and all of them were equally important. We had those kind of, you know, in-service meetings, all right? And so I know that it wasn't done that way this time, or I understand that. But what concerns me is just how to make sure that the emphasis stays on some areas instead of, oh, well, things got better, so now people slack off on what is important. If all our reading scores go up a year per kid, then people will say, good, we're doing fine, we'll keep what we're doing, and the emphasis will shift to something else. No, it stays on reading, I understand that, but maybe more specifically, we have 2 resource reading people, and then one of them goes, can you expect that your results are gonna stay as good? And the same goes for a language acquisition program or a lot of emphasis on a particular program. They don't, if they're not open for everyone who's watching them, then they don't always get the continued push that they need to keep their progress going forward. Am I confusing?
No,
Oh, okay.
but an LCAP is a broad document. That's what it's designed for. It's designed to be as broad as possible, so you can narrow down from your goal down and make those many things as you can that you're gonna try and do. You're not gonna be able to do them all, because again, we're talking about, you know, we're not talking about that. I guess in the grand scheme of things, it is a lot of money, but it's really not.
Okay.
And it gives a framework for a district what they move to. I like the goals that were developed 3 years ago, that's why I chose not to change it.
Yeah,
They
no,
were good goals.
and they don't necessarily change, I mean, they.
And they're still relevant today because we really haven't gone up that amount. We've gone up, we're moving in the right direction. But I don't think ELA scores are going to go to a point where we're gonna say, we're good with that, we're gonna move on.
great readers now, we don't need to worry.
So,
But, oh, okay. Okay. That just isn't the same as I thought I knew. So that's, I'm done with my question.
Okay. Anybody else have anything on that part of the LCAP? Then we will close that hearing and go on to the 24-25 budget. That's now open for discussion.
Okay. Would you like me to start, or do you want to start by asking questions?
Tough.
Okay, so the main point of building the budget is using the LCFF calculator provided by MCOE. I did receive inaccurate information, so with very little time, I readjusted the budget. So initially, I thought our revenues in the next 2 years were going to be a lot better than they're turning out to be. So the budget was built on that assumption that our revenues were going to be a little bit higher in the out years. So I didn't build any reductions into current year, or by current year, I mean 25, 26, or 24, 25. So there is room for change there, and I also want to remind everybody that estimated actuals is truly just an estimate. So at unaudited actuals, or any fund balance will probably come in higher, which means our next year's beginning fund balance will also be higher. So while we do need to make reductions and we're at 3% the next 3 years, there will be a little bit of change between now and unaudited actuals. And then even more so at first interim when I'm able to adjust some of our expenditures to reflect the revenues we're receiving.
So kind of where do you think some of those adjustments in general would come from? You think our student population will drop in so we can't make it up without adjustments? Or do you figure that, yeah, well, you know, we won't need $150,000 out of the general fund for the cafeteria and, you know, we'll make it up there?
Surprisingly, cafeteria and preschool have both been self-sustaining. We haven't had to offer a contribution this year, and I don't foresee that happening in future years either. It's honestly a district-wide decision. It's not up to me to make that plan.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to imply that.
But I don't think enrollment's changing and we really don't spend that much money. Utilities are going up, books are expensive,
Yeah.
propane or natural gas is ridiculously expensive. So it's something that's just going to have to be looked at as a district as a whole, and we'll have to make those decisions.
Yeah.
We'll be put off buying something a year or
So those COLA type increases that seem to show up, you know, that 1.7 to 2.8 or whatever to 3.04, whatever their little increases were, are not gonna cover much, basically.
No, you can see where they impact our revenue, because our enrollment in our ADA stay relatively flat. You can see, so 24, 25, it's 19.9 million, next year
Yeah,
it's
it's
2026, 21.051. It's really, it does increase, but it's not
Yeah, I don't think
increasing at
it's
the
gonna-
speed that we would like to see.
Yeah. Okay, it just, I didn't know that there was different monies, and a different report about how much money there was that isn't reflected, because I sort of thought this looked pretty good for a change, that, you know, it didn't have minus this and minus that every single line, you know, but, okay, if the money is different, then,
I'm not sure I know
oh,
or I understand what you're saying.
well, you know how every year, we do have a certain amount of money, and then the following year, after the unaudited actuals come in, there's sometimes a large difference. And I kind of understood you to say that there would be a difference, but
There will be.
yeah,
Purchases are still happening, we still have purchase orders that are open, still projects that are happening. Until spending truly stops June 30th,
yeah.
there isn't much that we can guess or estimate.
Okay, you don't figure in general that it'd be like another $1 million or 800,000.
I
It'd
don't
probably be
think
much
so.
smaller.
It'll increase, but I don't think it'll be $1 million. But honestly, without that concrete
my way of thinking, you've been pretty close to the mark every single time. And I'm just sort of projecting my little thoughts ahead and seeing, are we okay again? Or are we gonna see another change or another drop? I mean, that could be even worse.
I don't anticipate a drop at all.
And you know,
At most, I would maybe to 4 or 5% reserve, so,
that's, well, that's kind of what,
but it would continue to decrease, so.
yeah, but it looked like it was gonna balance itself at about 3%, which I understand this isn't the popular belief, but I really do think that what the state asks for, the state should get, and that's exactly what it needs to be. So I was just kind of curious that that was kind of where it was going, as opposed to in the hole, or in the hole meaning less than 3%, or that we needed to lay off 6 teachers and 4 classes and an administrator or something. Okay. That was my question. Thank you.
Any other questions that anybody has? Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and close out the public hearing on the 24-25 budget. And the next item is approval of resolution 23/24-12, middle school assignment authorizations. Okay, then ask.
Okay, before we decide, I had had a little trouble understanding that resolution, just because it seemed to say,
I'll make a motion to approve.
so that we can say, yeah, because if it dies, I guess it doesn't matter if I have a question.
Anybody second?
Second, very much.
I'll second.
Aw.
Thank you. Okay, now,
Now, Paula, go
You
ahead.
could have saved us, no. Anyway, my question is, it sort of seems, to me, it seems to say, listen, if we have a junior, you know, a middle school that does particular subjects, and we have multiple subject credentials, so long as they have enough units, and it varies, you know, then that person, then a teacher can be switched to something else, provided they agree, which is sort of the same as, I mean, it doesn't seem like, seems like that's a given in the first place, but if it isn't, okay, it's written up. But what sort of concerned me is the state says you have to have 20 upper division units for particular things, and our, I guess will be our policy, or whoever it is, requires 12 upper division units and 6 in generals or something. I've got the thing, I guess I could read it normally. But anyway, it just, 12 semester units and 6 upper division or graduate units, and in another spot it says the same thing. So we're not particularly aligned with the state. I was just curious how that works.
Document's been around forever, long before me.
Oh, okay. Well,
This
then it
is-
takes care of
This
that.
is a very common document for middle schools. If I had to guess, I would say that it was probably very difficult to find somebody with 20 upper division units in a particular area, so they probably dropped it down to a manageable number
Unmanageable.
in order to be able to recruit people to fill the positions. That'd be my guess, but I don't know if that's an educated guess. It seems like
Sure.
a pragmatic guess.
There you go. Well, it works for me. I had seen this before I knew, but I thought, this doesn't, you know, I sometimes don't think about how much sense some things make, but this time I was thinking about that.
I'm sure when the state puts together their stuff, they're always thinking about people that live right around the Capitol, and they've got all their stuff together.
Yeah, that I trust. So, okay then, sorry, I have no questions. So,
Okay, so
do it or not.
Are we ready to take a vote?
It's a roll call vote.
Roll call vote.
Rochelle reminded me of that when I met with Mark on Tuesday. Thank you, Rochelle. Okay, so, approval of the resolution. Paula?
Yes.
You're not Paula.
I am
Oh, I'm sorry.
Although, I'll change that too if you would like tonight.
I'm doing it backwards. I'm completely backwards tonight. Diane?
Yes.
Alex?
Yes.
Jeannie?
Yes.
And yes. So it passed 100%. Okay. Okay, now the next thing is items for the next regular board agenda. adjournment. Anybody want to make a proposal?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Okay, we have multiple people. We're eager.
We're all in favor?
Aye.
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 Have a wonderful weekend, you guys.